being said, I just want to start off by telling you very quickly about Juni. So Juni, we are a 1-year-old banking solution, and our main focus and highest priority is to become the best bank in the world for e-com and marketing companies. And we usually call ourselves the financial companion, and that is because we want to be more than what is seen as a regular bank. We want to become your trusted advisor, being able to help you with all financial matters. And I will not talk more about us, but instead, I will highly recommend you that if you're interested more about Juni afterwards, just reach out to any one of us after, and we're always here. So with that being said, going into Jarno. So we're very happy to have Jarno here. I know Jarno doesn't want to be called king of e-commerce, but we truly believe, with your story, you've shown that you are capable of building great e-coms. Without saying too much, Jarno created Nelly 2003, which became a great success, and now has founded and are the CEO of Naked, which maybe is even a much bigger success. But I will let you tell all about that. So with that being said, we want to get all your knowledge out of you so people can really get the insights they need to create the best e-com from day one. So starting off, it would be great if to hear a little bit about yourself more, if there's anything you think people doesn't know that is important in your backstory, and otherwise we're going to go into the questions directly.
Yeah, I don't think there's that much to add there. It's I've been doing this for 18 years. I'm definitely not a Swedish king of e-commerce, but I had done my fair share of A/B testing and my fair share of mistakes. And of course, what we do in e-commerce, what I've been doing is fashion online, and fashion is one of the most kind of heavy lifting things you can do online. I mean, you have the warehousing, you have the technology, you have the financing, you have the production, you have the content, there's the storytelling. So on Nelly, I was the CEO first, and then I stepped down, and I was the sales manager, marketing manager, and purchase manager in one until up to 800 million kroners. I scaled that company from 15 to 800 million kroners in 4 or 5 years. But Nelly, Naked is bigger than what I ever achieved with Nelly. Naked is on our track of doing somewhere between 2.6 and 3 billion, and I think we are probably top 5 biggest e-commerce companies in the Nordics after 6 years. So it is being quite fast pace for sure. But so yeah, to be fully transparent, guys, I'm a shareholder of Juni. So this is not just a kind of a courtesy thing, and this is I'm a proud shareholder. I believe in the company a lot. And I said to Samir and the guys that I think we need a kind of a session for e-commerce people to talk about e-commerce and ask about e-commerce questions. So we'll keep it quite detailed today, and just give us a shout out if you don't follow.
Perfect. And we're very proud to have you on as shareholder. I think there's a testament to both the need of a banking solution focused on e-commerce, but also that we have a lot of knowledge behind us. So going into it, so in order to structure this and make it simple for everyone to follow, and also get understand if the questions I'm really interested in, will they come up, we have used what I would say the Jarno framework for how to look at e-commerce. So we're going to go through 5 parts, which is essential to understand, which is demand, obviously how you get your customers, the platform, your home, your storefront, supply, everything that Jan was talking about now with production, how are your inventory handled, and how do you get your products out, and then service, how you actually talk with your customers, and then lastly, which is I would say the driver of all of this and something that we want to help you with, the financials, in order to optimize them so you can actually, get the best demand, have the best platform, have the best supply, and give the best service. So with that, Jarno, you want to add anything to the framework before we begin?
For all of you viewers, we have not in any way rehearsed this. We wanted to feel like a fireside chat where we take something spontaneously. I will show a few views. I saw that we're recording this right now. We might want to delete some of I will show you actual numbers and our actual files we use to conduct our business day to day. But yeah, as I said to Samir, I think, this is the framework we're going to have today. And shoot us questions along the way, and this will be a little bit more interactive than we don't want to have a monologue. We definitely want to have you guys interacting with us. So yeah, we got a few questions and quite a lot of questions, and Samir, we put them in these buckets basically. So let's start with the demand bucket. What I mean with demand, guys, is creating demand is actually creating traffic, or creating a need for something. So we call it on Naked, we call it demand. So I would say I have had over 1,000 white collar people working for me throughout the years, and the hardest thing there is to create demand for something, especially in a generic business like fashion. You need to create stories, you need to create awesome products. So demand is, of course, the easiest way to get a good demand is to create awesome products. I mean, there's on Anneli's wall in Borås, there's a saying that I think they might have put it down when I left, but it says you can't put makeup on a pig, which means that, if you look at the traction of a company like Revolution Race or Stronger, or, for sure they're good marketeers, but end of the day, they have very, very, very good products, right? So I think, but of course, creating demand requires a lot of skills, but it also requires what I call is this need or a wish to run traffic. End of the day, I look at traffic as the blood flow of a e-commerce company. As long as you have traffic, you can actually, and then the next job is to convert it. But so creating demand and creating traffic is monumental and paramount for any company. So let's look at the questions we have on the demand side.
Let's do that. We already got some Q&A. With more detailed question, and thank you for sending in that directly. One of the big topics that's come up from a lot of customers is like when you're starting out and building a brand, so what is the marketing campaigns you should focus on and run directly?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain channels that are faster than the others. I would say that I still meet companies that are turning $40-50 million that only use Facebook or Instagram as a single source. They don't even do SEM. They don't even do all the others. For me, it's always been a very, very wide game. I want to really, really run a wide game, but you want to sequence. You want to sequence the channels you want to start. So easiest for what we have seen to start with is obviously paid social. That includes Instagram and Facebook and whatnot in paid social. After that, it's been quite immediately after that we start with influencer marketing, and that's influencer marketing we do with basically having influencers giving out codes, right?
Yeah.
It all depends if you have generic brands or if you have a product that is a brand. Of course, SEM is one of the earliest things you can do as well. But of course, SEM is very price competitive, especially in generic brands. Yeah. SEM wasn't a big thing for Naked in the beginning, as we, people don't search for polka dot dress. They basically, search for dress, and everybody's bidding on that. So we didn't see that long tail action on SEM as I did on Nelly, where I had 800 brands. Naked is private labels. So SEM comes then, and But I think where I failed twice is been the SEO. I've been too slow on the SEO. It's always been SEO should move as fast as your other channels are moving, and then that requires particular nitty-gritty interest on the SEO ability on your site. So basically, you want to have your organic side moving as fast as your paid side, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the paid side, you have the paid social first, then you have the influencer marketing, you have the SEMs, you have the retargeting, the criteos and whatnot, and you have display and all of the. But on the other hand, the organic side, you have the SEO, right? And then you have the direct traffic. And I think, what I've been bad at throughout the years is to nurture that organic side. We've been if you have the funnel, you have the upper funnel, you have the mid funnel, you have the down funnel, right?
Yeah.
And Naked has been very, very bullish on the mid funnel and down funnel. Because we have that type of people on board that are really, really data driven and wants to attribute everything to the last click. Whilst you're in the upper funnel, it's very, very hard to attribute, right? Because you're doing brand recognition at the same time as you're doing. So it actually, we saw a strange correlation between influencer marketing and direct traffic.
Yeah.
Which was quite 4 or 5 years down the road. We saw that, we said, okay, let's stop. Let's just work with the big influencers because the long tail is so painstaking to work with them. It takes a lot of man hours. But we saw a kind of an unbelievably spooky correlation between our direct traffic and all of the small mentions we have. So if you see a small influencer with 1,000 followers, you tend to go and Google for Naked afterwards in the same way as you do as big. So we definitely learned the lesson that, we definitely cannot underestimate that some of our mid-funnel channels, as we considered influencer marketing to be, is actually a very, very powerful upper funnel brand repetition. Yeah. So I often say that influencer marketing today is like the TV of yesterday, right? So you kind of so long answer for a short question, but you need to play a wide game. But we just 5 years into it, we started to do outdoor. Outdoor is one of those things you just put money on that you can't see anything in the traffic, or if you're not super small and you do a big campaign. But for us, it didn't even give a ripple. But why we don't have a problem with we don't have a problem with brand recognition with Naked. We have a problem with consideration, right? So after a while, when you become bigger, you need to at least put 10% of your marketing on fluffy things to build your brand, where it's not shop distress. It's more like, okay, tell the world what you're about, right? So but of course, the best marketing is awesome product.
Yeah, that was great. And I think this comes into a lot of the questions we got. I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in right now also. So just to start off before going into the details. So, one big question that comes up is this, brand versus product focus. And for me, Naked, I think I saw Naked for the first time through the influencers, and I didn't even know what kind of products you were selling. And maybe I wasn't the audience directly. In the beginning, but I think how do you think about that? From a first principle, and then the second question is, obviously you're very famous for the influence marketing piece, and we got a lot of questions how you think about influencers, how it developed over the years, and what's the best way to use it. My experience from my own e-com is that influencers can be very expensive, but that's obviously also from my I have a hard time to judge how much value they will get from them. We also have one great question here coming in, and I'm taking it because we're on the subject, but how did you track your ROI on the influencer marketing in the beginning? And was it like on a gut feeling basis, or did you have a great way of tracking that?
No, that's quite, to be honest, that's quite one of the channels that is most easy to attribute in if you look at direct sales, because we give them codes that are only valid for 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, if a normal customer has 6 touch points with Naked before they make a purchase, right? And I still meet companies that are, working with attribution models. And I talk to people at Booking.com, which, they are probably the biggest in terms of paid digital marketing. And they said, yeah, we tried different attribution models, and we always come back to basically last click, right? So you don't have to be overly smart, but you start to see connections, right? So influencer marketing was pretty easy for us, as I said, just to attribute directly, and then we could have an ROE on directly, right?
Yeah.
But then we underestimated the branding part of exactly what you explained, that you just saw it all over the place, right? Yeah. So that's the branding part, and not that you always acted on it. It needs to be a particular dress and so forth. But I think influencer marketing, I've been working with influencers since 2004, 17 years. And for me, that's old media, right? So, but many are trying it for the first time. And what I see is that there's a huge volatility. You can have a girl that has 30,000 followers, has more buying power than a girl that has 3 million followers. It's that spooky. So I often say that the fastest way to lose money is to start with influencer marketing and going to an agency, and the agency says, yeah, okay, you should choose Kenza, you should choose this, and they give a handful of 10 big names, right, or 5 big names. You need to see your influencer marketing as a pool of like stock, like your Avanza or whatever, right? Yeah. So how it works is that it's so volatile, but the sheer mass of the big makes sense, right? So it's so volatile, but the average makes sense, if you know what I mean. But it's like going on a to a race horsing track, right? And you think that you will make it rich by just choosing 5 horses. You probably need to bet on all horses, and then but of course it sounds super expensive. And yes, if you're going to get to the point where influencer marketing makes sense, you need to have a lot of financial stamina. You need to set aside quite a lot of money, because if you just set aside like 50,000 kroners or 100,000 kroners and you try the waters, you're doomed to fail, as we were in the beginning. But eventually we started to understand that we do roughly 3,500 campaigns a month that are negotiated, either a sponsorship deal or a sponsorship and money deal. And I think we spend 7 million kroners a month on influencer marketing alone, and that's excluding collab. So I mean, we definitely come to the point where we can actually but of course we have the same when we go into a new country. That channel will not be as profitable on ROE until we are known. But it's chicken and the egg, right? So you need to go into Germany understanding that, okay, it takes some time. I need to work with these influencers. And when my brand recognition becomes bigger, the ROE is actually there. So.
And on that note, we got some question now also, like how do you mainly evaluating your traffic? Like, is it ROI, CPA, CR, conversion rate? Or how, is there like anything you've seen over time that is the most important metric? And does that differ between a channel, or it's just like the same for everything?
I seem to always when I hire a lot of smart people, they are so fixated with percentages, and I always talk about absolutes. And of course, I love percentage. I love incremental margin. I love everything that is with numbers, but I cannot just, because if I would look at just percentage of a cost of sale or ROAS, I would not go into a new territory, because we are going into Spain and Italy, and it's terrible in the beginning. You have cost of sale of 40-50%, right? And it can become very self-fulfilling if you take all of the money you have of marketing and you just put it where it makes sense, right? Yeah. But after a while, you're exhausting the growth that is there, and you're starting to see diminishing in returns, right? So what you need to do is you need to plant those seeds, right? So we are planting seeds in Spain and Italy right now, and we need to accept that it takes a while. So we can see in every country that the ROE is starting like 40-50%, and then it's going down as we are getting more and more known and so forth, and we're getting more and more repeating customers and so whatnot. So, but I would say I can share a screen here if you want to. This is, I think, for me.
Stop my share and give you the room to.
Yeah. So what I'm going to show you is our this is obviously we're not publicly traded, so this is, I can show you this. But this is our KPI file. This we look at every morning. We have a morning meeting every morning. We look at the KPI file. This is this has a few topics. I will not show our current month because it's a little bit trade secret, but I will show you a May last year. So let's see. There we go. Let's give me a sec. There we go. You see my screen, right?
Yes.
Don't take any mental pictures or any. But no, but this is fine. This is from our last May, right? So of course we have had a very, very high growth because the last Q2 was anabolic for everybody, everybody online. You could see that. But basically what we measure here is that we always have a target. We don't go one single day on Naked without having a target, right? So we compare our sales towards the target, and then we have accumulated sales here as well, right? So this is SEK. Then you can actually see how much we are from the target. So at one point we were like minus 7.4 towards our target 9 days into the month. And you know, it's on Naked, it's a war room feeling when you're 7.4% off after 9 days. So this is very, very granular on the level. We look at the cumulative growth year on year. Look at sessions. We even have, not on this one, but on the new ones, we actually have a session target. So we need to know how much visits we need to have that day to have a, but the absolutely most important thing is actually here, which is the GMV per session. And that is even more important than the conversion rate, because this takes in consideration how much kroners GMV we bring in per session. This is an excellent, it's much better accurate than a conversion rate. And we look at it even on a product level. So we actually see which products gets the most revenue per session, not just revenue. We look at the margin on this side, and we compare the margin targets and last year. And we even look at the discount 2020 versus discount the year before. So all of these are super. I will stop sharing because I get a little bit nervous there. But you know, you cannot talk about demand if you don't have tangible targets. And I seem to be the guy in the company that always puts the absolutes quite high. Yeah. People talk about percentages for sure, but I talk about, okay, how many people through the door tomorrow? How many people through the door the day after tomorrow?
Yeah. And we got one question here just for the viewers. So GMV, what does that stand for, and what is that so important?
GMV is what you see in Google Analytics. It's gross merchant value, which is bruttoförsäljning, which is gross sales. So it includes VAT and it's before returns as well. Yeah. So that's the number you see in GA.
So and my question from a personal view, so the discount, that is how much you give to the customers in average, right?
Yeah, it's markdowns on site combined with coupon codes. Yeah. So you don't want to have a growth that is just fueled by giving more and more coupon codes. You actually want to give less and less. So yeah, that's actually strengthens your margin over time. So that's the kind of real growth.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sorry, please go on.
No, I think, and we do this granular day by day. Then we also simulate quarters before they happen. And we actually set on quarters, we actually set a gross, we call it obviously cost of sales on cost of sales on GMV. So we set a target and we try to run with that target. But of course, it's always this kind of a growth versus efficiency thing. And if you look at today's market, it values growth slightly more than profitability.
Yeah. No, so before we go over to the next subject, I just want to end with some questions. So one big question that's come in is like, what's your best, advice or tips on how to raise the conversion rate, if there is any like insights you have there? And then I have two small questions about how you work with influencers. We can end with that, more of a number questions from Naked. But start off with the conversion rate.
Yeah, I mean, conversion rate is stimulated by a lot of things. And of course, as I said, it's not just about conversion rate. There are growth drivers that we see. We look at, we build everything from bottom up, right? What is creating sales, right? It's traffic, it's how many minutes they spend on site, how many items they put in the baskets, what's the bounce rate, and etc. So we set targets on all of those. How many people are actually going from the basket mode to the kind of checkout mode? I can actually share one more screen here. Let's see. Yeah. This is our old growth driver. So you need to know your growth drivers, because that's the conversion rate as well. So let's. Here we go. See my screen here?
Yes.
So here we see, we are running roughly 4.2 billion kroners in GMV up to last 12 months, last November, right? So then we have here we can see how many customers it is. We see how much that has grown. We see how the order has grown, units sold have grown, per customer, and average basket size. All of these are growth drivers. It's not just a conversion rate. So you cannot just look at the conversion rate. So what do you need to do to drive? You have drivers, right? Customers, you have new customers, so initiatives we have here is like SEO, customer lifetime value, based marketing optimization, automated CRM program, on-site messaging, good value for money, merchandise market expansion, mobile ad, etc. Then you have second driver here is automation, a lot of automation, right? And if you look at a driver, which is spend per customer, it's category expansion. We give them, we are starting with baby, we are starting with other. So if you have a customer in hand, you need to milk that customer as much as possible by going even vertical. So these are drivers for that. And then you have how to get old customers spend more. It's the active customer frequency, which is these kind of things as well. So there's not a silver bullet in actually how increase the conversion rate. Conversion rate is actually increased by all of this. So it's not just move that button over here or I mean, all the websites today are quite generic today, right? So yeah, for sure, we see uplift in A/B tests, but I don't think we have a single A/B test that has lifted up the conversion rate more than 5%, not percentage points, 5%. So it is much more about how you talk to the consumers, how you do the retention marketing, and the product assortment. We see that the assortment, if we have roughly 5% of Naked's assortment is today roughly 35-40% of our turnover. So if we have bad availability on this 5%, it hurts us much more. So we work a lot on availability on the right selling products and predict to have certain stuff in stock. And one big driver for increased sales and conversion rate is newness. I think people underestimate how we basically treat Naked like Aftonbladet. It's a new cover every day, something happening every day. So, we just need to keep that kind of a wheels in motion, because if you don't,
it's like a news page. You really need to be fresh every day.
yeah,
And
in our industry at least. So.
Yeah, and on that, like a lot of people, in the industry using email a lot. How is email driving this work for you as a growth driver? And is that part of this news? Being always relevant and giving people always a reason to go into Naked, or how do you think about that?
I think if you look at, you're careful that people will not unsubscribe, right? But we did a lot of A/B testing on different groups and so forth, and we clearly saw that we had room to increase. So we increased our email marketing by like 30-40% last year, and we just lost like our churn or just slightly increased. So the net effect was still very much in our favor. But yeah, we've been on the other side during Black Weeks and whatnot, when you hit 2 emails a day and you clearly see that you're starting to exhaust it, you're getting low opening frequency. So I think the only way for you as an e-commerce operator is to try your way. But I think you will come to a point where you see that the customers are accepting more communication than you thought, and you get this natural heartbeat going on.
Yeah. No, I remember in my old company we had, I think, 26% of the email value was from the first email when they bought the first thing, but then it trickled in, like over time it became a lot of money. Okay, we talked a lot about demand now, so I'm going to share, it's going to change. We're going to have a lot more webinars. Maybe we're going to set up a series. I hope you've seen the screen now. So and sorry to everyone who have asked the question. We'll try to take them in the end also, but going over to the next subject, platform. So, coming to Naked, I think there's been a lot of questions like, what is the best platform, especially when you start out? I think that is a very important choice. How should you build your, your store and your, what we can call the infrastructure, essentially. Is there any you recommend or, not recommend? And what is the most important part to take in consideration when you choose? Like what should you focus on when you choose a platform? And we also got one last detailed question about what you think about Shopify and if you're using it.
What we refer to with platform here is not something just the technical platform. A platform for us is a physical store. A platform for us is Zalando marketplace. A platform is basically where the demand can go, right?
Yeah.
So we see platforms. The app is a platform that it's separate from our. So we have desktop is a platform, mobile web is a platform, app is a platform, physical store is a platform. If we are listed on Amazon, it's a platform. So we actually have different platforms our customers can visit us on. So I think what I would say is that I regret very dearly that I jumped on a project about a vanilla solution app, which is a company that came to us and said, hey, okay, this and this company is using our app, and it was it's like an off-the-shelf solution. We lost 2 years on that, and now we are releasing our app end of this month or early next, which is at least 2-3 years too late. App is a very important thing. If you look at the digitally native DTC brands like Shein and the others, they have like over 50% of their turnover is coming from the app. And app is such a good thing for retention as well. It's cheap retention. It goes into your organic bucket. And so definitely I would urge everybody not to make my mistake. Make sure that you jump on the app wagon earlier than later. Regarding platform, I think, when I started 18 years ago, I paid my first developer, I think he got Jolt Cola as pay. He got 24 of them. And I said, at 2003, there was no, you couldn't choose a platform, right? So, and that was the case for many, many years because it's only Visma and the others that started, right? So what then emerged is the second generation of platforms, I would say. The first generation was the IBMs and the Microsofts and whatnot. Terrible solutions, way too expensive, SAP. Then you had the second generation of platforms coming. That was still an enterprise solution that were on servers. You had Pulsen, you had YetShop, and you had you had Magentos, and you have WooCommerce and whatnot, right? And if you look at the Eviscan and all of those, right? If you look at those platforms, they actually heritage from the original code is like 6, 7, 10 years old right now. So of course, if I'm a shareholder in any of those companies, I would expect that we need to monetize. If they have been working on this platform so long, they need to monetize on it, right? But what I actually see in the last 2 years is that some companies are riding a dead horse. Some platform companies, it's changing right now. The serverless and headless thing, you need to jump on that wagon. And you cannot. There's not a single of the biggest e-commerce players I know is betting on one technology or one system. They are actually going into this microservice mode, which is you basically have your engine. It can be e-commerce engine, but then you use the best of breed solutions around that, and then you have a serverless or headless solution basically. So the day you want to change that engine, right, you can change that without changing the front end or without changing your PIM or without changing. So I definitely believe in a microservice system. Don't jump on a one solution fits all masterpiece, because it becomes a monolith very, very quickly. So I really enjoy working with the best on their thing. We have people like I was the first client of Klarna ever back in 2004. And obviously Klarna is a very, very good partner to have in the checkout. You wouldn't build a checkout today that is better than the one-page checkout Clear or Klarna or whoever has. And same with Ingrid, is a shipping and modular so choose those best in breed services, and then you choose a slim engine. But of course, if you look at Shopify, a very potent solution that will carry you to like a $500 million or $1 billion. But of course, if you're going to, you shouldn't. You should bet on a technology rather than a company, if that makes sense.
Well, that's great. And I think actually, my biggest takeaway, was the beginning there also with, that you have to have different, look at platform very, broad and think of it more than just one way. I think if I look at my old companies, a lot of them had just one or two storefronts. We never had any apps, and then focused a lot on email and leading from all traffic sources just to those storefronts. And I think that is a very common situation, because a new platform in that sense is always very expensive, and then you need to maintain that, which also demands you to do more things, and you don't have so much time and so on, especially if you're growing.
It's much better to change those small pieces around, and there's a lot of good companies and a lot of new platforms coming that is serverless and headless. I can definitely email me, and I can give you or poach me on LinkedIn, and I can give you a few advices on platforms that are more about the future. But we definitely see a paradigm shift on platforms today.
Yeah, well, that's great. So we will jump to the next subject here, and we're getting more and more questions. So, and feel free to mail questions afterwards also. So just coming to the third part, which I think is very important, especially if you have a lot of inventory, and we have some really interesting people here asking questions about that. But supply, which is obviously, maybe can be the breaker or the winner for a company when thinking about products. So starting off, a little bit coming back to what you talked about, on demand side, like product is so important in order to drive demand. And I think sometimes it's hard to know if, is it wrong with your products, or is it wrong with your, demand tactics, so to speak. But what's your, how do you look at, picking products, from day one, like, and how nitty-gritty should you be there? Is there a strategy or way of thinking? And then we can go into the other part, obviously, how many products and so on.
Yeah, I knew that I only had one shot at impressing the audience. So we opened the company April 2015. We were supposed to go live in the fall of 15, but I actually pushed the launch like 4 months because I was not happy with the inventory. I was not happy with it. I think we opened up, we had probably 700-800 styles, which is quite big, you know, already from the get-go compared to others, right? You know, demand and supply, the oldest rule in the world, right? It can be applied on people and relationships, and it can be applied on anything. So you definitely need to understand the correlation between supply and demand. You know, you can run as much traffic and demand, but if you can't, if you don't have interesting content to match that, or you know, the right content, more than half of Naked's traffic is coming from the side, which is not through the front door. It's going direct to the product listing pages, right? Or the product, the PDP pages, the product pages itself. We definitely see that the biggest fluctuations we have in sales is when the supply is not in balance with the demand, right? So, and of course, we see growth driver. One growth driver for us is that we release 75 new items a day, right? Which is much less than we have. I just looked at Shein. I think they're releasing, like, I read the article that they're releasing roughly 3,000 new styles a day. And Zalando is probably well above 1,000, right? So we clearly see that, we can see that the day we release more new items than the day before, we get more sales the day we release more items, right? Yeah. Because we look at people go to our latest arrivals the most, right? So for us, releasing newness is a growth driver, and it's a retention driver, and it's a driver in every. So we actually aim to release 100 new items a day and so forth. But of course, you need to clear the other stuff that is in the back end, right? So you need to have this balance that you don't have dead stock at the same time. And this is the hardest thing for any merchant selling whatever, is that sometimes because you have old stock that is going slow, you punish new stuff. Yeah. And then you become irrelevant for the customers, right? You need to have something to talk about in every email, in every update on the web page, in every post on Instagram. You need to have, so we really trying to not to mix these two problems. So we try to have a good push on new items and cool stuff happening, and make sure that we deal with our overstock that is creating in the background, right? Yeah. So I would say the most important thing, which I even should have done even better, I think I did it quite well on Nelly. I did it even better on Naked, but it can be done even better. It's trying to achieve very, very fast stock turnover. We want to turn our inventory 6-7 times a year. Yeah. We turn it more than 3 times a year, which is better than ASOS and some others. But we still have miles to go there. That enables you to really be always active on the newness side, right? So you really need to be liquidating inventory, and we liquidate a lot of inventory outside the Naked, right? Just to make sure that we are nimble all the time, right? Yeah. And we don't have overstock, right? And one thing that I see that new e-commerce merchants are not paying attention to is working capital. Obviously, this is something I've been talking to Juni about a lot, but it's working capital can easily become this trap where the better you're selling, the less money you have on your account, and you come to this kind of a screaming halt because you cannot move, right? So what we Naked is aiming to have a DPO, it's called the days payable outstanding, which is the average day when we pay our bills. We are negotiating longer and longer terms with our suppliers, and right now we are excess of 100 days, right? So I see that many and there's companies that have even more. If you look at Volvo, they're probably at 200. So I think it's very, very important for a new e-commerce player to negotiate good terms. You know, paying in advance is a big no-no. You don't do that, because that is terrible for the working capital. You need to negotiate with your supplier, saying that I want to grow, you want to grow, but you need to give me payment days. Yeah. So or they can hook up with Juni, and Juni will bridge some of that working capital. But I think Also, why I've been able to build very big companies is because I raised a lot of capital to be able to, to be able to invest in inventory. So inventory and supply has very much to do with sales. So try to find a correlation here between, and try to free up money and go to all of your suppliers. I do it once a year. I negotiated with the vending machine at work about you can get 3% more better prices. I'm like, no, that's not interesting for me. I need 30 more days. That's the holy grail. So I think trying to understand how your sales reacts to your supply, and look at we look at broken sizes, for example. We can see a percentage of how many of our choices have broken sizes. If that's too high, we see conversion rate go down. So try to understand your and that's the only way you can do it. I can't do it. It needs to be done by the merchants itself.
Yeah, and I think we also got a question here, like what you should do when you start out and like your product research, when you seek out the different products, talk with factories and so on. And I think it would be interesting to hear your takes on that. If you have any special advice, but also I think you're 100% right. It's one thing I see, both in the companies I've seen in the industry, but also, in our current customers, obviously a lot of people underestimate in their negotiation. They look a lot on the product only and not the terms associated with buying the product from that factory, which is at least as important if you want to.
I mean, margin is important, but I would say many times in the beginning, long payment terms are even more important, because that enables you to experiment with inventory and so forth. And where you want to get is basically that the product is sold before you pay it. That's what's called negative working capital. Google for it. It's the most wonderful thing. That's where you want to go. Yeah. And when you actually get to that point, to actually create a cash printing machine. So, but of course you need to negotiate and make sure that your suppliers, but it's a win-win, because end of the day you grow bigger, they get bigger orders. So you kind of together work your way up. Which products to choose? I made a terrible mistake when I was in between. I had a lockup. I couldn't compete. I had a non-compete rule. I couldn't compete with Nelly. So I had 2 years where I couldn't do fashion online. I went into pet food online. I was choosing between pet food and selling posters. My God, what a mistake! I identified the pet food industry that it only 1.5% of the pet food was traded online. It was approximately the same when I went into fashion, early days, and I saw that boom. So I looked at macros and I said, okay, this vertical will explode online. Surely it has exploded online, but the margins, my God, they are so, if you have the terrible combination of heavy shipping and low margin products that you don't want to do. So GM2 is the most important margin in e-commerce, which is the product margin and the shipping and the packing margin. So if you look at Naked, we are above 30%, almost 35% some months on GM2.
Yeah.
Whilst you could never get above 15 with pet food, right? Because you had a low margin from the beginning. So I would say the worst thing you can sell online is probably toilet paper, because it has low margins and huge pallets, right? The best thing you can sell is diamonds, because high margins and low shipping costs. You shouldn't do drugs, but drugs is also good, but don't do that. But it is, you want to search for those high margin products with low shipping costs and stuff that can be distributed globally. That's so whatever that is. Fashion is quite okay, but there are better for sure. I mean, if you look at training gear, or some of the companies that are doing, they have 76% margin, and they have very slim packages and robot warehouses, then it's really good. So I would say that product margin is superior, but also how much space does it take in the warehouse, and how expensive is it to ship?
Oh, Great. I think it's super interesting. Also, obviously a lot of e-commerce come from you are interested in a product, and then sometimes you do this research also because you want to sell, and you have a lot of different options. One last question on this subject. We have 9 minutes left and want to come into a little bit about service and financials, but one last, do you do any predictive analysis on your product, like, and how does that work? Just,
Yeah. If you look at normally my company's always been a purchase department. Right now we have a purchase and design department, but what is new on Naked is that we have started a planning team. A planning team is not to be mixed up with a controlling team. A controller is often don't do that, cut here, cut there. That's a controller, right? But if you are a good planner, so planners are actually interpreting data, so we can actually predict the livelihood of a product. We can predict the churn of a product and so forth. So when a design and purchase makes the first order, they get even input on how much to put on the first order. We want to put as little as possible on the first order and repeat it as fast as possible. Yeah. Of course, we have the production cycle, so we need to do some bets. So I think it's very important that we had to learn our buyers by the planning team, show that, okay, the consumerism is like this, is up, yeah. Nothing, up. So basically in fashion, you have one winner, like shit, winner, shit, winner, right? So, but if you're a bad buyer, not a bad buyer, if you're even a good buyer, but the best buyers had that confidence to say, that dress, I would go deep on, I would go shallow, deep, shallow, deep, shallow. Sometimes they put in the middle, but it needs to be like really. So I think it's what I've seen in the best companies, merchandising companies, is where people actually dare to go deep on the winning products. You need to have availability on them. So make sure that you don't buy too even. You need to bet on some horse, because you can't buy deep on all, because then your budget is gone, right? But really pay attention to, if you go to ICA or wherever, you see you go in the aisle and there's the tacos, right? Big stand and a lot of tacos, right? So they go deep on tacos, and so you need to do your bets and you need to present them in their customers.
Yeah, that's also very important for the working capital, so you actually deploy it right.
Yeah, because otherwise you cannot take a budget and it cannot be sufficient for a wide, because consumers love wide ranges. Whatever you say about it, they love it. Stats say it, we see it, everybody say it. But a budget will only take you so far in the terms of widening the range if you go deep on everyone. But if you go in the middle of everyone, you're actually buying too much of the stuff that is selling bad and too little of the stuff that is selling good. So you're in a lose-lose situation there. So really pay attention to your winners, double down on them, and lower the purchases of the other ones. But you still need to have them, because you never know what some of the stuff you don't believe in is a winner. But if it's a winner, double down on it. Yeah.
Great advice. So just jumping over to service, just a quick word before we jump over to financial.
Yeah, no, I think service is, we have a customer service that is answering email. We have 2.5 hours minimum that they need to get a response on. And we have a 95% customer happiness on that. So I think we have found when we increase the time to 1 hour, happiness doesn't increase that much. So of course, sometimes if they get answer in an hour, they're super happy, and sometimes we can do that. But we have found a sensible way of 2.5 hours. But if you don't answer your email in 6, 7, 8 hours, or even a day, no, that's a no. I mean, e-commerce today requires much more. So make sure
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Measure how happy they are. Use systems like Zendesk. Don't do that, because you need to have a history with every customer. You can see that. Do NPS measurements today, and not only just doing it on the back of the confirmation page, because that's cheating. Everybody's happy when they do a purchase, and but you need to do it like a couple of weeks after they have received the package, or 10 days after. Then you can actually see how happy are they with the full, and they make sure that they rate, the website, they rate the service, the quality of the products and everything. Measure, ask your consumers. And then
I love this. Keep going.
Yeah, and then last mile, super important. We see that our cohort, which is the retention rates, are, we made a move from our warehouse. We opened a warehouse in Sweden and cut off 1 day for our customers in Sweden. Huge difference on the NPS, on how they rated their last mile delivery. So it is very much, I don't think, you don't have to jump to same day delivery yet. We don't see that much. They're not that much more happy than the customers that get it day after. But make sure that you really, really, really understand that what an ambassador you're getting if they get the package the day after. That's why I'm not such a big fan of drop shipping, because you kind of give such a delicate part of the thing to us, the third party. But so. Really, you really need to see a old customer is so valuable, so valuable. You cannot, in any circumstances, lose that. So what you need to have, you need to see your business as a bucket of water, right? You want to pour water a lot in the top, but you don't want to have a leaking bucket. So don't accept one single churn.
Oh, that's great. Okay, now
goes
we have
to
2
Juni
minutes
as
left.
Well, right?
Yes, 100%. We don't lose any customers.
Just a note from a shareholder.
Yeah, that's good. No, but I think that's obviously so important. Just also to, especially for us, in the beginning, you have a lot more customers than us, but just to listen to the customers also, because one of the biggest part of building a business is to do it together with the customers.
Yeah, dare to ask. They will probably say some bad things about you from time to time, but transparency is the only way to go.
100%. Okay, now we have 2 minutes left, so I just want to end on the financial piece, because that is obviously very important. And I can promise everyone that we're going to do a second chapter of this. We have gotten a lot of questions we haven't had time to go through. So just ending, Jarno, on the financial piece. Obviously you talked a lot about working capital. From your point of view, what's the most important factors to get your financials rolling? Like if you're going to set up e-commerce, or if you're struggling e-commerce or growing e-commerce, like what's the main factors you're thinking about and the advice you want to give?
No, I think definitely everybody that is listening here or tuning in here, Google for working capital and negative working capital, but working capital and ways to improve working capital. As I said, every single negotiation, with PostNord, Klarna, whoever, if you're getting money in, try to get it fast. If you're going money out, try to get it paid late. So that's just the shared principles of working capital. And why I was so interested in investing in Juni is that I see this urge, and would see there's so many e-commerce companies that would grow so much faster and would be so much more profitable if they would not be this constant stop and push and go with the working capital, because even if they might be sometimes very profitable, they don't see any money on the bank accounts, right? So Juni is trying to bridge that, but I think take companies like Juni in help, but also work with looking at all of your every single bill you have at the office. Look at the payment terms. If it says 30, call them and ask for 45. If it says 45, call them and ask for 60, and tell them it's in their good interest, because it will make you a bigger client. And sometimes it's just temporarily as well. You say that, okay, I just need this year. Because I want to make an exceptional growth in this category or this country, right? So just really, really learn how to deal with the cash flow. I would say I have a black belt in cash flow, and we actually are, most of our money we have raised has gone to investments and losses, not working capital. I think, so you can make sure that you use the banks and others. go there, and many people go to the bank with their, you know, their hat in their hand. Excuse me, I'm here. I just go to the bank and say that you have other banks that wants to work with you, and make sure that you leverage. Money is quite cheap today, so make sure that you leverage the debt market as well, so you don't get diluted. So I mean, we always and do that, especially if you raise capital. Exactly when you raise capital, then the day after you go to your bank. Yeah, I raised capital. Now I want you to give me a increased revolving check credit or whatever. So make sure that you need to remember the bank is not an institution or a higher. It is a company, and they're there to serve you. So make sure that you use the network of and make sure that you can use that as a growth capital as well, and companies like Juni.
Great. Thank you so much, Jarno. We're over time. I know you're busy. We will schedule another one. Thank you, everyone who listened in, and we will come back on all the questions we haven't answered, and we'll send out a new invite to next session. Thank you so much, Jarno, once again, and thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Tuesday. Bye.
Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.